Greetings to you all, third year. A lecture on the analysis of the character of Joe Keller, presented by instructor Abdul-Munem. Who is Joe Keller? Joe Keller is the patriarch of the family. Patriarch, head of the family. He owns a factory that made airplane parts for the military during World War II. He puts his business, which he claims is all for his family, ahead of his own integrity, dignity, and honesty. Remember that Arthur Miller gives a good bit of space to the description of Joe Keller in the opening stage directions. We read that stage direction. I repeated it to refresh your memory. Joe Keller is 60 years old, or about 60. A heavy man of stolid mind and stolid mind and build, a businessman these many years, but with the imprint of the machine shop worker and boss still upon him. When he reads, when he speaks, when he listens, it is with the terrible consternation of the uneducated man for whom there is still wonder in many commonly known things. A man whose judgments must be dredged out of experience and a peasant-like common sense. A man among men. Act 1, line 1. Notice the repetition of the sound B, D and D, D, B, stolid, mind, build, business, worker and boss still upon him when he reads. The dredged out of experience. The writer uses this sound to emphasize something in the character of Joe Keller, of his heavy body, stolid mind and build, and to show something, to impart something on the character of that worker and boss. The description of Joe Keller in that stage direction, let's see what does the stage direction give, and more than the stage direction. The description of Joe as a simpleton and an ignoramus come up again and again in this play. Chris, who is Chris? Joe Keller's son. Chris teasingly calls him an elephant in Act 1, line 500, not 500s, 535. And Kate, who's Kate? His wife, calls him a bull, Act 3, line 36. After George's ominous phone call, George, who's George? George Deaver, who is George Deaver? After George's ominous phone call, Kate warns her husband to be smart now, Joe. The boy's coming, be smart. Act 1, line 620. Miller emphasizes Joe's lack of education when he says, a man among men, lack of education, as one justification for what? Justification for his criminal actions. What was his criminal action? What was Keller's criminal action? Do you remember when we said that he sells faulty cylinder parts or faulty cylinder heads to the army, and 21 pilots died because of these faulty parts, including his son Larry? That was his criminal action. Joe did not approve those cracked cylinder heads because he is stupid. He approved them because as an uneducated man, he needs all the more desperately to protect his way of making a living. Way of making a living. This is how he worked, and this is why he worked. This is why he works. This is how he works and why he works. To make a living. An instance, an example. Joe reads the want advertisements and tells Frank Luby, his neighbor, about the interesting want advertisements. Where does he read want advertisements? Do you remember when we said with the opening of the play, Joe sits in the backyard of his house reading in the newspaper. What does he read in the newspaper? Want advertisements. What is interesting for him? Let's see. He found something and he told his neighbor about that thing. Keller, here's another one. Wanted, old dictionaries, high prices paid. Now, what's a man going to do with an old dictionary? Frank, why not? Probably a book collector. Keller, you mean who'll make a living out of that? Sure, there's a lot of them. Act 1, page number 5. Keller here is wondering, is surprised. An old dictionary, a book collector can make a living out of that? This is new for him. Joe Keller is the patriarch of the family. Again, as a head of the family, his primary value is the success of his business and his ability to make money. He is concerned with money and economic security in his and economic security is his greatest concern. He thought here that book collecting or wanting an old dictionary is not a way of making a living. That's why he was surprised. Why he is concerned with money? Why economic security is his greatest concern? What do you think is the reason? Joe experienced poverty in his childhood and had to work when he was 10 years old. When he was a child, aged 10. Here comes the point. Here is the point. He was poor, his family was poor, so they sent him to work when he was 10. A proof. How do I know that? Was Joe one of my family? Do I know Joe Keller? Do you know Joe Keller? No, of course. We take a proof from the text of the play. Here, in this quotation, Joe Keller, told his wife, Kate, that he regrets for not sending Chris to work when he was 10, when Chris was 10. Where is this speech? Here, with the red color. This is not my speech. It is Arthur Miller's speech. So I have to open a quotation mark because it is a short quotation of 3 lines. 1, 2, 3 lines. When you have a short quotation, you use quotation marks. This is what they do in English papers or papers written in English. I should have put him out when I was 10, like I was put out, and make him earn his keep. Then he would know how a buck is made in this world. I closed the quotation. The quotation ended with this quotation mark, closing quotation mark. Act 3, line 63. What does he say here? He told Kate he regrets for not sending Chris to work when he was 10. He wanted Chris to work when he was 10, like when he worked when he was 10, like when I was 10. I was put out and make him earn his keep. Again, earn a living, earn his keep. A buck is $1. A buck is $1. Therefore, or it means Joe Keller is a self-made man who worked his way up from worker to boss and owner. This is one of the reasons. Poverty, working when a child, made him progress from being a worker to being a boss. The second reason he experienced the economic crisis of the Great Depression. What is the Great Depression? It is a period of severe economic failure in most countries, not one country, not only one country, but most countries of the world, that lasted from 1929 to World War II, which started in 1939 till 1945. It is began in the USA, when the New York Stock Exchange fell on 29th of October 1929, known as Black Tuesday. What happened when the stock exchange fell? Many businesses and banks failed, and millions of people lost their jobs. President Franklin D. Roosevelt improved the situation with his New Deal policy, but the Great Depression was only ended by industrial production for the war. Pay attention to this. Industrial production for the war. What did the factory of Joe Keller make? It made cylinder heads for fighter planes. So Joe Keller participated in the industrial production for the war, for the Second World War. That's how he succeeded. Watch this photo, or look at this photo. What do all these men want? Why they are standing in a queue? For a cup of coffee and donuts. They want a free, F-R-E-E, a free cup of coffee and donuts. What else? Free soap and other cheap things. That's what happened to those people in the Great Depression. Look at this destruction, those poor family, this ugly house, the protests of the children. Why can't you give my dad a job? Rerig's kid doesn't starve. Why should we? But many people suffered the same economic depression. Here, Joe and money. The issue of Joe or Joe Keller and money. The reader understands now why Joe has always been concerned with money. The tragic experience of the Great Depression dwells in his memory. He cannot forget that experience, that tragic experience of hunger, of poverty. More than that, personal poverty is in the background. You remember we said that his family was poor and sent him to work when he was 10. Both of these experiences, child poverty, the Great Depression catastrophe, made him concerned with money. Joe narrates to Kate, his wife, his triumph over the criminal justice system in the Great Depression period. He told her how he succeeded economically, and concludes with the boast that 14 months later, I had one of the best shops in the state again. Best shops. A respected man again, bigger than ever. Act 1, line 446. I repeat, his primary value is the success of his business and his ability to make money. That's why Joe thinks of money, of succeeding economically, of securing his family, because of these two experiences. I hope that this is understandable. Please send me your questions if you have any. The lecture ended. I wish you the best of luck.